Into the Zoom room, Jackie and Sally. So nice to have you here. So we've done our little sharing. Shall we just dive into today's teaching? So I'll just share my screen with you. Let's have a look at today's email. Okay, and all right, so today's lesson is about time, the future. So I picked this quote from the beginning of the text. This is the Principles of Miracles. It's from Principle 47 and 48, right at the end. If you remember, there's 50 principles. So yeah, some really interesting stuff about time. Do you want to read that, either of you?
Yes. A miracle is a learning device that lessens the need for time. It establishes an out-of-pattern time interval, not under the usual laws of time. In this sense, it is timeless. The miracle is the only device at your immediate disposal for controlling time. Only revelation transcends it, having nothing to do with time at all.
Okay, any thoughts on that? Should we just, I've given some commentary, so should we just dive into that?
Okay. Today's inspirational quote, first section of chapter 1 of the A Course in Miracles text, entitled Principles of Miracles, will hopefully give you a new perspective on time, helping you to transcend it systematically and progressively until you can enter the state of revelation, which is pure formless of perfect love and nothing else. By forgiving or letting go of all your ego's judgments systematically and progressively, which is what miracles are, you are letting go of the need to play out the effects of your ego, which, remember, is just your belief in separation and the separate self-concept this belief necessitates in time, and accepting pure formless awareness of perfect love as your eternal reality instead.
Okay. Let's pause it there. Any thoughts on that?
So in doing the forgiveness on everything that arises, we have a choice between choosing between the loving response and the fear-based response. If we choose the fear-based response, we waste time because the lessons come up again. If we choose the loving response, we save time. It's like time collapses. We don't need that lesson again. So we move forwards. Can we go back to the quote?
Yeah.
I'm interested in this out-of-pattern time interval, not under the usual laws of time. I mean, revelation would be direct communication with God, as I understand it. But I don't.
Which is timeless. So in revelation, there's no time.
So that would be some of the things that, you hear about people, I don't know, seeing light around objects and things like that. Would that be considered revelation?
No, revelation is beyond images and objects and perception. Revelation is just you in the state of pure formless awareness. There's only that one single experience. There's no form, therefore there's no time. Nothing changes, because time is really just the perception of change, isn't it? Things are changing all the time on the level of form, and so you measure time by change. In revelation, it's a timeless, eternal state. Nothing ever changes. So you can go into that state in deep meditation. You can be in a state of revelation where there's no perception of time. Right? I've had a little experience of that, a little glimpse of that.
That at the end of your
yeah, that was a revelation. For that, I don't know how long it was, but it wasn't very long. It was an instant, maybe 30 seconds, a minute. Who knows? But it wasn't. I knew it wasn't very long because there was a bell, that rang, for the next session. So it wasn't hours, but it could have been 5 minutes, but it felt like just an instant. It really did, but it could have been 5 minutes. I don't know. Where you just enter into a state where there was no time, there was no perception of the body, there was nothing of time going on. There was just an awareness. I wasn't asleep. There was just this pure formless awareness. That's all I can describe it as. So it has nothing to do with time or space at all. Whereas the miracle operates in time to help you to transcend time. So the miracle meets you where you are in time, and it's a device then for helping you to get out of time and ultimately collapsing time. You're saying, the miracle is the only device at your immediate disposal for controlling time. So when you let go of your mental and emotional attachment to things, you are collapsing time. You're letting go of the need for time, which then is time control. And people do start to, you notice how time, I mean, Sally, you were saying, time just flexes, doesn't it? It's not absolute. You need more time, and then suddenly, oh, I have more time, and that means I can get on the call at 12:30 or just afterwards when you didn't think you were going to make it. So time is perceptual. There's no absolute to time, as Einstein discovered. The theory of relativity is nothing more than saying, well, time and space are relative. They're not absolute ideas. They're not fixed. They're relative, and they change.
Yeah.
So we're not living in, time is not fixed and absolute. It's completely perceptual. The only absolute thing is eternity. That's the only thing that doesn't change, which then underlies time. And so the miracle is the device for accessing that systematically and progressively, accessing the timeless state in the now moment. You keep going back to that timeless state, reminding yourself that it's there, so that ultimately you prepare yourself for the time when the body is laid aside, and then there's no more belief in time. The time is gone, and you're already so rooted in that pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is eternal, that you stay there. There's no need for changing that. You don't feel the need to go out of that and change it and come in and have another incarnation and play in time anymore. And the way out is this forgiveness, radical forgiveness or letting go, systematically, progressively, let go of whatever the judgments are, which are behind time. The judgments, as I explain here, the judgments play out in a human life as the changes in our lives, which enact the beliefs that are not of God, that are separating beliefs. So time and those beliefs go hand in hand. See, so with those false beliefs, you must enact them, and then you need time, which allows change to enact them. So you need the change and the dramas, because the ego's denied pure formless awareness of perfect love and said, no, there's something else. And now you just got this impermanent reality continuously in change and flux, which is very unstable and unreliable. So time, goes along with that, all of these false beliefs. And you can see it's a construct of the mind, all of it. Very clever, and the ego is ingenious to put this all together, but it remains false. If you compare it to pure formless awareness of perfect love, and you contrast them, you go, well, clearly they're opposite. You can't have both. So you must choose which one you prefer.
It seems to me that when we have those experiences out of time, there's literally no time. It takes no time at all. I was about to run a oneness workshop the other night, Wednesday night, and I just laid on the bed at 10 to 6 thinking I'll just have a couple of minutes stillness, and I went to some other place. I can't remember what happened, but it was like traveling a long way, and then suddenly I came back and went, oh, where am I meant to be? Where should I be? And then suddenly realized I'm meant to be on Zoom. And actually no time had passed. I felt like I'd traveled a really long way and gone to a completely different dimension, but the clock hadn't moved at all, thankfully,
Brilliant.
luckily. But that's what it is. It's absolutely no time, isn't it? You have an experience. Well, you're not really having an experience. You're slipping into the no time zone, and the actual clock doesn't move. Yeah, that's happened a few times.
So there's talking about, it's the device at your disposal for controlling time. That's an example of exactly that. You go into the timeless dimension, and then because time's perceptual, time, well, in that instance, it can stand still. You're going beyond the seeming laws of time. Above it, so you raise it, you rise above the battleground on the vertical dimension here, and there's the timeless. You do that, and you're in that awareness. Well, it could seem to be a long time. You go there, and then you come back, and really almost no time has passed. Yeah, because as I said, it's another dimension. Dimens, by the way, means split mind, two minds. So the dimension of the timeless is your right mind. It's a part of your mind that still knows that and is rooted there. And then the other mind is the mind of the ego that has to live in time and space.
Did you say dimen is split mind? I didn't hear what you said was split mind.
Yeah, dimension.
Oh, okay.
Minds, dimensions, two. So two minds. So another dimension means it's another part of the mind. So ultimately, in non-dual, there is no split mind. There's no dimensions of reality. There's only one reality. But so while we perceive this world, and then this other world represents the alternative. So we call it another dimension.
That's interesting. So when people talk about third, fourth, so on dimensions, that is part of the ego realm.
Yeah, of course. There are no levels in oneness.
No.
There's no fifth dimension, because levels imply separation, don't they?
Yeah.
That there's something different between the levels. Well, in oneness is oneness. There's no levels in it. It just is what it is. So all of that is part of the ego's construct of separation. Consciousness, as he says, is the domain of the ego, and there's many beliefs that go along with that, like, oh, well, it's got multiple levels, and within the ego system, that's true. There seem to be levels, but what we're trying to do is go outside of the system to the true reality, which seems like another dimension from here, but actually it's true reality, and this one is false and doesn't exist. So you can't really call what doesn't exist any kind of dimension, really. It actually has no reality and no existence. It's not as because if you equate it, oh, well, there's this dimension of reality and there's another dimension of reality, and you make both of those real, you've split your mind, haven't you? You've got two completely conflicting realities now seeming to inhabit the same space, and say, well, that's on the higher level and this is on the lower level, but actually it's totally different. It's totally apart. As he says, revelation has nothing to do with time at all. So these realities don't mix at all. They just alternate, opposite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so timely and so helpful, because somebody was asking me about the oneness workshop I was doing, and she's going, so is that the 12th dimension? And I thought, I haven't got a clue. I know. And you've just answered that question. Just let that go, Sally. You don't need to know.
No. And you could use that question to explain to her that ultimately in oneness, there are no dimensions. There's no 12th dimension, 11th dimension. This is all constructs of the mind, as he says in today's lesson. Images, idols and images that we've invented to make our false world real. All these concepts. So if you challenge these, people can get uncomfortable, and even spiritual people. Oh no, because they hold these beliefs sacrosanct. But oh no, there are these dimensions, but actually they're not. You say, well, prove it. Can you prove there's a 12th dimension? No one can prove it. It's just an idea. Have you ever experienced it? Like, what is it? And then how's that feel opposed to the 11th dimension? Like, it's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? It's like smoke and mirrors. It's like, well, you're believing in something clearly that doesn't really exist. You just made it up. It's a mental concept, and it sounds good. Or is that the 12th dimension then? So no, it's the 13.5th dimension actually. Oh, there's dimensions in between dimensions. Oh, that's interesting. Have a bit of fun. And so no, there are no separate dimensions. There's just oneness. Oneness is oneness is oneness, and there's only one awareness. It's not split. There's no levels. That's the beauty of this non-dual teaching. It's very, very simple. No, you don't have to like now try and explain the multiple dimensions of reality and etc. It's just like, no, none of that's true. It's all illusion. Okay, so we carry on. Lifetime.
I was just thinking I'm going to have some very uncomfortable conversations with a few people because they live in that world of their whole business and their whole job is all around that. And I'm like, I don't go there because I've never taken it on. But
different dimensions of reality and
interesting.
Yeah, you won't necessarily be popular, but if you drop the seed in, they might just go at some point, oh, actually, maybe there's something to that. Maybe I need to. This isn't working for me anymore. When they experience the downside of their belief system, they might go, oh, remember what Sally said. So Sally, you remember you said that? You said that thing a couple of years ago about there's no dimensions of reality. It's only. So what did you mean? And then that's an entry into a non-dual path, like the Course in Miracles. So this is not even in so-called spiritual New Age circles. This isn't going to be a popular teaching for a lot of people because it's really deconstructing all of their illusions and just saying no, that's false too. No, that's false, or all false. Because they want to hold on, the ego tries to go with you on the spiritual journey and it wants to hold on to that stuff and make it all real so that you can still have a separate identity in time. You're just now a more spiritual separate self, spiritual ego. I'm more spiritual, so that's okay. But actually your ego is just morphed into now the spiritual self, which will keep you in time and space. You're not going to escape it. With any kind of idea of separation still in your mind. So, people say it's absolutist. Well, yes, because reality is absolute. Oneness is oneness is oneness. You can't compromise on that. If you do, you split your mind and you come here. And we try and find a way to live in that split mind. And we fail repeatedly. We don't find happiness or peace or love or joy because these two alternative thought systems constantly wrestling for control of our minds.
It's interesting in relation to what we were saying the other day about the thought that the Course is a complete thought system, and that's very reassuring on one level, but it's finding that balance between having it as a complete thought system and not getting tied into some of these other popular concepts and not becoming so evangelical about it that actually you cut off things that really are part of the Course's thought system, but just packaged slightly differently. It's because the Course does also say it's not the only path, doesn't it? So it's a being open-minded enough to consider the other paths that are saying the same thing, but recognizing where the line is.
There's truth in many paths, but a lot of paths don't stick to the hard line non-dual. They waver and they've got little compromise concepts in there, which can then be very confusing because you're like, well, if only oneness is true, then why do you have many dimensions of reality in your theories? Or we talk about many lifetimes and they focus on reincarnation or whatever. Whereas the Course just stays very true to the oneness is oneness is oneness. So everything is pointing back to that oneness. And just don't make exceptions, you say. So you can look at any belief system and you can go, yeah, those aspects are true, but maybe those aren't, and you can discard them because you start to see them. And it's a very simple decision maker. Is that just oneness? Is that perfect oneness? that's symbolizing or representing? Or is there an idea of separation in there? Very simple. Concept of levels of consciousness. The idea of separation is inherent in it, isn't it? Because what separates the levels? You must have differences there. So the levels must be separate in order to be different. So that's clearly not an idea of oneness. It's an idea based on separation. And, with that kind of logic, you can pretty much evaluate any belief and go, yeah, that's true, or, that's not. And then you start to see that the common thread running through all these spiritual teachings, the truth is that they all point to the same oneness, the same pure formless awareness, God, whatever you want to call that, spirit. They all point to oneness. And at the highest level, they all do become non-dual. All the paths, Christianity, Buddhism, Sufism, they all, when someone really takes that to its extreme, they go into the same kind of state of mind, of just being aware that there's one awareness called God, and they merge their awareness with that awareness. That's sort of the universal mystic experience, which sort of tells you that, okay, there's actually, as he says, only one universal experience. The theology doesn't really matter. It's the experience that this is leading you to. That's important. And every path, if it's genuine, and you're willing to really go the whole way with it, will take you there. Because in the end, it all comes down to, can you let go of your ego and all of the mental and emotional attachments that the ego consists of in this world, and just go to that perfect oneness, rather than needing to play out the belief in separation. Okay, so next paragraph. It's only a lifetime spent.
Can I just say that is very relieving what you've just said, because people study all sorts of different things, and a lot of my friends are into human design at the moment, and it's like I can't go there. It's just stuff, isn't it? And they're such great believers in it, and they'll come on a coaching call with me and say, I'm a manifesting generator. Can you help me clear anything that prevents me being able to manifest this way? And I'm like, oh, I just let it go over my head. It's like, really? So I'm so glad you've said that, because I can just let it go now.
Yeah, you don't have to, they might believe in those stories, but you don't have to. I'm a manifesting generator. No, you pure formless oneness of perfect love. That's what you are. You're not a manifesting generator or whatever, because that keeps you as a special self in time, trying to manifest stuff in time. You see, you can't manifest stuff in pure formless awareness. There's nothing to manifest. It is as it is. It's perfect as it is. So a concept like that will keep you trying to manifest a better reality in time forever. You'll keep coming back, and we can keep trying to manifest a better reality in a very flawed construct, which ultimately leads you to suffering and death. I mean, you just have to point that out. They probably won't like it, but someone has to challenge their illusions and say, well, is that really true? And you see, the danger is it's all then about, oh, I want to use the spiritual technique to get what I want. What I want, you see, that's what they're doing. Oh, forgiveness. Okay, but that's forgiveness is going to help me to manifest more. Okay, well, I learned forgiveness then because I want to manifest. No. Don't learn forgiveness because you want to manifest. You want to learn forgiveness because you want to know who you really are. And when you know who you really are, manifestation is like kid stuff. You're playing around with the things in the illusion. And listening to Eckhart Tolle and saying, oh, you can play around with that stuff if you want to. And everyone kind of laughs a bit kind of nervously, because everyone's kind of done it. He's talking about people who are like Jim Carrey. He mentioned a story where he'd had he wrote himself a check for $10 million before his career really took off, and then he did, I think, one of his first movies, the Pet Detective one or something, and he got a check for $10 million, and so it manifested. And Eckhart said, that's, and he apparently still carries a check around in his wallet that he wrote to remind him of the power of his mind. And Eckhart's comment is, well, yes, you can play around with that stuff if you like. And everyone kind of laughs a bit, because it's just you're playing in time and space still, aren't you? Oh, well, I'll create a better time-space reality. more money is good for me. And, you know, it can work if you focus on it, and put your intention into it. But that's not the ultimate destination. And I think Jim Carrey's gone beyond that. He's gone into non-dual. That was a starting point, but he would probably say, you know, that certainly wasn't the ending. That was the beginning of my spiritual journey. Just to start realizing the power of my mind, and my mind creates my reality. That's useful to know that. But then you go, well, if my mind's creating my reality, maybe my mind's created the whole thing. The entire, it's not just, oh, well, you know, my mind can create more financial abundance. My mind has made up the entire construct. My mind is actually continuously making up and perceiving the world. You're doing that continuously. I mean, that takes it to another level, doesn't it? It's mind-blowing. Everything you see around you is made up. It's your mind created projection, perception, and it's all, the world is in your mind, and that's all happening unconsciously. Somehow you don't understand how it's happening, or you've forgotten how it's happening, but that's the power of your mind. That's what's happening all the time. So it takes it to another level. Whoa. You know, the universe is a great thought. It's a thought in my mind. Wow. Okay. But maybe the entire thought behind it is false. That's the realization Yeshua had. Spiritual genius, really. He meditated. He went for 40 days into the desert. Maybe he got it there. Maybe he got it elsewhere in India. We don't know. But I suspect that 40 days was probably a kind of a dropping point for him. And I think he must have just got it and gone, okay, the whole thing is false, all of it. One tiny mad idea that blows it up into this, you know, bubble of consciousness we call the universe. And everything, if it comes from that tiny mad idea, is false. So therefore, everything I perceive, everything I experience in time, it's all false. And that's the way out when you realize that. That's the way out of the dream of time and space, because you realize it's just not true.
Oh my goodness, Jono, you should be somewhere where everybody's listening to this.
Well, we'll see what we can do next year to bring. The problem is, you know, if you speak this to a lot of people, they won't like it. They won't want to listen to it because it challenges their illusions. And they still want to believe in a separate self. And someone comes along and says, no, it's just not true. No, absolutely none of it's true. And that pushes their buttons. And they go, no, I don't want to hear that. So I want a version of spirituality that works for my ego. And then, so that's why people seek out, you know, a dualistic teaching, because it allows the ego to maintain. And then they can go, I'm still spiritual, I'm kind of doing it, but actually they're kidding themselves. They're not really doing it. They're just playing around more, you know, another self-concept that they're giving themselves, more spiritual. And, you know, I think you can do that for lifetimes. I think some people have. Just play around, fiddle around with various beliefs, and you go to this and you go to this, and not really saying, okay, you know, I just want the straight truth. Give it to me straight up. You know, if it's hard to accept, then okay, so be it. But give it to me straight. And yeah, this is a path for people who are willing to do that. I said, you know, before I came to the course, say, okay, give it to me. I want to know the whole deal, whatever it is, just tell me. And then the truth will come. But if you want to deceive yourself, then you will, unfortunately. And if someone, you know, says, well, that's just not true, you won't believe it. You'll be resistant to it. You say, no. You know, I had a conversation last year with a guy who was of the alternative school of non-duality. I mean, just work that one out. That's a contradiction in terms. The alternative school of non-duality. The truth is, it's not an alternative school of non-duality because there's only one non-duality. It's a dualistic teaching. That's what it is. Making the illusion real and saying, well, that is as real. The illusion is as real as the other dimension. So there's two dimensions and they coexist, and that's all okay. You know, so then you stay in time because you still believe in it, and you suffer the consequences of it. And Yeshua's giving us the escape. He's saying, I'm going to tell you how to escape entirely. There's no compromise. There's no holding back. You're not going to have a little bit of time and a little bit of pain and suffering and death. It's all going to go. Or you if you want to carry on believing in your illusions, you can have all of that and carry on enacting that through your many lifetimes, but it's never going to make you happy. So, listen to me and I'll show you the way out of the whole thing. Okay, so well, did you read A Lifetime Spent Radically Forgiving?
No, keep going
No,
off
you
on a
didn't get
tangent.
that. No.
I won't say anything else, I'll just read it. A lifetime spent radically forgiving or letting go will prepare you well for the time when you let go of your body, which we call death, in this world, as your mind will then be so established in the state of pure formless awareness, which is heaven, that you will remain in that state eternally and never feel the need to return to the prison of a body to enact your belief in separation's unfortunate consequences. This need to act out the belief in separation through an extended experience of living in a body in time and space is called karma, or karma in Hindu, Buddhist, and other Indian spiritual traditions. Therefore, letting go of your belief in separation also dissolves the need to enact it through a human life, i.e. dissolves your karma and allows your mind to remain in a state of pure formless awareness eternally, which, remember, doesn't mean forever in time, but in a state in which time no longer seems to exist timelessly. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So just recently I've understood that eternal thing.
Do you see what karma is? It's just a belief in separation that needs to then play itself out. And karma actually means action in Sanskrit or Pali. So it's action based on a belief. You need action, which is a movement. Action implies movement, change. It's an action based on a belief. So it takes you away from beingness, pure formless awareness, which is inaction, by definition inactive, it just is. And it puts you into a domain where you have to act. And and then you act, and then you get reactions and things happen, and then you act again, and now you're caught up in action and reaction, which is the cycle of birth and death. The only way out is to let go of the belief that drives that, and that belief is a belief in separation, that you are a separate self, who now needs to live out that separate self and enact it and act it out and play it out and then have a life that plays it out in the dream world.
So in our dream world, babies come in with karma.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have karma. Karma is your identification with the separate self and your belief in a separate self, belief in separation that gets played out as your separate self concept, your identity.
So a baby can't exist without karma.
No, because you wouldn't come. The mind would not incarnate into a body if there was no karma. When you're free of the karma, which is the accumulated egoic energy, negative energy, thoughts and emotions, then there's no need to incarnate, which is fortunate. So there's freedom. You don't have to keep reincarnating, otherwise there'd be no way out, wouldn't it? Just another life, here we go again, baby again, do the whole thing again, go through the whole, oh god. When Gabriel was born,
that's what we did. Yeah,
when my son was born, it was shocking. I held this little baby, and I really got experiential. It was very visceral that this was this entry into a delusion. He just entered an illusion. It wasn't really something to be celebrated. He was now in the illusion, and he was helpless. He could, I could have dropped him on his head, and his first experience of life would have been lying on a hospital floor with his head bashed in. And it was shocking. I was like, oh my god, what? And I did this. I recognize that I did this 42 years before. I'd been in that position. So it was almost like, because you forget, in the middle of your life, you forget about birth and death. You kind of, that they don't really play too much of a part in your life. You're in the middle of your life. But that was like going to either the entry point or the exit point can awaken you. And it really did. I think it really helped me awaken to realize, okay, this is actually how it works. And it was shocking. I really found it difficult to deal with, because it was like taking it out of the conceptual realm and okay, this is actually happened. This is how it works. This is how human life works. We're born as babies, and this is, every something someone celebrates, but actually this is a mind that's now got itself enslaved into a body for the next however long.
Born into hell.
Yeah, born into hell.
And you're helpless.
Really to be celebrated. Yeah, a helpless victim of a world that can now do anything to it. With no capacity to look after itself, take care of itself, totally reliant on the external world, its parents, to provide. I mean, why would you do that to yourself?
So we should be mourning birth and celebrating death.
Yeah. But you can reinterpret and say, okay, well, he's come in, and I had to do some work on it, but he's come in to learn his lessons. So this could be his opportunity to find freedom. So that's the positive interpretation of it. It's a delusion. He's got himself enslaved, but through working out his karma in this life, which maybe I can help him with, then he could be free. And that's the only way he will be free. You can't free yourself in the incorporeal realm, because you have to experience. Here's where you get to experience the effects of your beliefs. It's the mirror that you need in order to see your beliefs and then release them. So that's the positive interpretation of it. Yes, I've come into prison, but I can learn lessons in the prison that will help me escape the prison and make sure that I don't have to do it again. And that's the most positive view of your life that you can have. It has no purpose, absolute purpose, to be human. It's a delusion, and our job is to escape it. Forgiveness or letting go becomes our only purpose then. If you accept that, if you have other ideas, then of course you're going to give it another purpose, aren't you? And he's very clear again. He says it only has one purpose, and that's forgiveness. And if you vary from that, then you will suffer, and then eventually you'll come back to the idea that you need to forgive and you need to let it go. So why not just accept it and say, yeah, okay, that's the whole deal. I just need to let go completely. Everything needs to go. Every belief, every value that I hold, every belief that I have, that's part of my seeming human life, that needs to be undone. I can't believe that anymore. It's quite big. I mean, that's big.
Yeah. But it's strange how we all like newborns, don't we? New animals, new babies. And actually, that gives it a whole different viewpoint. I never know what to say to people when somebody says so-and-so's died, because I don't feel sorry for them. I think they're lucky. And I never quite know what the response is when someone says someone's died, because I don't feel any like they
escaped. It's nothing to mourn. They've escaped. I mean, they may come back. Did they escape in an enlightened state? Probably not. Most people don't. If they escaped in an enlightened state, then that's a celebration. That's graduation day. They got out, and because they got out means you can get out too. It's a confirmation that you can get out of the matrix of time and space.
I suppose you could have the response when somebody says, my mum's died, and I could say, they'll be back.
You'll be gone.
Yeah, well, most of the time you'd be right. There will be, because if they haven't let go of their karma, which is a deep-seated belief in separation, then what that belief necessitates a human life, or some life. Maybe they're not human. Maybe they'll incarnate as an alien on another planet. We don't know. But in some form, identity is required in order to play that karma out. And everything has it. Animals, plants. It's a belief at the core of that mind that believes in separation. And then it has to keep playing itself out over and over and over again. Stuck in a time warp, really. But like that, that ghost, you didn't know about it. So Sue and John shared a story about a sort of ghost entity in their house.
Yeah.
who kind of been knocking around since the Victorian era, and then they called in a ghostbuster to come and clear her and release her. But she kind of got lost. She wasn't harmful or anything, but she just she hadn't let go. Her husband had died, apparently, according to the psychic, and she hadn't let go of that. So she was still attached, and so she was just knocking around in this incorporeal state, knocking around in the house, probably confused, not knowing where, thinking maybe she's there, but she doesn't have a body anymore. But the self-concept gives her some kind of, that's why, people can see the self-concept project into and they'll see the image of what was the person that no longer exists, but it's just a projection of mind. So it just got lost and needed someone to say, okay, it's okay, you can let go and you can leave. And then presumably she would go back into, for a while, just, okay, she's not now attached to that time-space area, and then reincarnate, because she probably hasn't fully let go. So then she'll come back, but she's free then to move on and have another lifetime, and hopefully learn some lessons in that one that free her. Okay, so does it kind of give
about that forever? That's a really interesting subject.
Well, that's something that you could be interviewed on. You've got some expertise in that.
We used to have a lot of non-physical energy in the house. Opening and closing doors and footsteps.
Oh, really?
Until a month or two ago. I suppose since Jackie's come here, it hasn't happened so much, but definitely activity. Yeah. And it was very light-hearted and it didn't matter, but seems to have stopped for the time being. But it's strange being downstairs and knowing there's nobody upstairs and hearing movement upstairs. But yeah, very interesting. And then you mentioned aliens. I mean, that's a whole subject I'm fascinated by, that I feel that I felt really stupid about the alien thing, because I used to have conversations, I don't know what you want to call it, is it like psychic conversations with these alien beings, and it all made sense, and I got loads of information, and as a child I had lots of alien experiences, and then I was doing this work and I was thinking, oh, it's all in my mind, I made it all up. But then from what you've just said, it's kind of a mind, did you call it projection? Yeah, I mean, it's like a thought form without a body.
It's just a projection, but in another dimension, you could call it. Within the illusion, you've got these seeming dimensions, because you get the physical, and then above that you can get these incorporeal entities that operate just in a mind level. But, of course, none of it's real. That's not real either.
So then I felt embarrassed because it wasn't real, because I used to run workshops and people used to come and talk about their experiences, and I'd have like 15 people in a room saying, I've never told anyone this before, but I've had this experience with this spacecraft, alien, whatever it is. And I thought I was doing a good thing, because they were able to come out of the closet and actually say what they'd experienced, and they could then let it go and not worry about it anymore. But then doing this work, it's like, well, I've just made it all up. These people haven't really had these experiences because they're just a projection of me. Then I felt a bit silly about it all. But
no, it's all learning. You go through these phases. I mean, considering things like aliens and other entities and paranormal phenomena, it's a part of realizing there's something more than the physical, and that's useful. So often that's where it starts. Spiritual teaching doesn't start with non-dual, because it's too radical for most people. So, okay, there's something more than just the physical world. Okay, wow, that's an interesting idea. And then they go into that. I want to explore this dimension, or whatever, or explore aliens. There's something more than just this world. It's expanding the mind in some point. But the problem is too many people get fixated there. It's not seen as like, okay, well, that's just really a stage of learning, and actually I need to go beyond this. It's like, oh no, now I get obsessed with aliens, and I dedicate my life to communicate with alien beings, and well, it's just another false reality you've invented. Aliens only happen in time and space. The idea of separation is inherent in it. They're called aliens. They're seemingly different, separate beings that are potentially scary, based on separation in a construct of time and space. So clearly an idea of separation, which isn't going to get you home. But if you use the idea to expand your mind a bit out of the flatland worldview that there's only the physical world, none of this stuff exists, then it was useful. So it wasn't what you did wasn't a bad thing, and it was part of your learning. But if you ever have to address the subject again, you could say, well, yes, we can talk about all of this, and you can listen to people sharing their experiences and don't invalidate them, but ultimately it's all illusory. It's all just another construct of the mind. Whatever you want to believe, anything in form is illusory, whether it's alien beings or ghosts on another dimension, all of the paranormal phenomena, that whole world that people get fascinated by, is just another trick by the ego to entice them to believe in an illusion. And it does it pretty well. There's a lot of people that, because that's more special, that's more interesting than normal reality, so that must be the reality. And then they attach their mind to it, and then the ego still got them. The idea of separation is still behind it. So yes, it's just training us to say, look for the idea of separation, be very vigilant for it. Wherever it comes in, see it, and then let that belief go, because it's not true.
Yeah, I think it was a stage of learning.
No, it is, and it's brought you here. Because if you hadn't gone through all of that, probably wouldn't have been ready for a non-dual teaching. So that's what normally happens with the course. Most people do various iterations of various spiritual paths, beliefs for a while, sometimes a long while, maybe 10, 20 years, and then they come to the course eventually, because they're still seeking. It's not somehow, none of that stuff. It can be very interesting for the mind, but it's not actually satisfying. You notice that it's not really satisfying. You don't go, I'm really content. There's always a restlessness. No, and I want to know more, because it's a mystery. I want to know more about the aliens. I want to know more because it's not fully explained. So then we dive deeper, and it's a craving for more knowledge. This is another version of craving. I want more knowledge about that subject. And of course, it's endless. You can keep going and going and going. You can become the super uber expert, and you'll still not know everything about it. And there'll still be more to learn about it. And you've just really gone down a rabbit hole that the ego's invented to take your mind away from pure formless awareness and get it very obsessed with time and space. And anything will do. Choose aliens, well, that'll do, because it keeps you in time and space. Or you can choose paranormal phenomena or crop circles, and people have these special interests, whatever, and they can get very obsessed by it. And really, it's just keeping their mind away from the state of pure formless awareness, which is covered over by that veil of illusion.
Very cool. Yeah, you're laying a lot to rest today. Thank you.
Good. Only a pleasure. Okay, so happy with that paragraph. Move on to the next one.
If you think about the average human life, you can see how this need to enact the belief in separation or karma operates in practice. People's unconscious belief in separation causes various situations to play out in their lives to punish them for their apparent sin of separation from their source, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love. Most people's reaction, Karen?
Yeah, any thoughts on that paragraph?
It's interesting about I suppose the guilt around separating from God, pure formless awareness of perfect love, is so subconscious that we're not aware of it.
Yeah, so but it's there, and it has to play out. So we manifest situations that then seem to punish us, cause us pain and suffering for this apparent sin, and we don't realize that our self-concept, the idea that we're a separate self, is the problem. We're guilty because we still believe we're a separate self.
Okay,
it
so
goes very, very deep into the mind. Most people don't want to look that deep, but that's what you have to do.
So the separate self believes it's separated, but in fact it never did, because the extension of pure awareness of perfect love is still connected.
It's still, yeah, that awareness is still their true awareness. They would have no existence without that awareness. So it's all just a false belief. And they never did separate, which means their ego is not real, never was real. The entire life as a separated self is not real. Well, it's radical stuff. Most people are like, whoa, that's a bit too much, but that's the truth. That's the
But they never separated because their true self, their higher self, whatever, didn't separate. Only the egoic ideas, the karma, shut itself off from that.
Well, it's just a false idea. The false idea that now sits in your mind and seems to create a whole reality around that false idea. And it's a false idea blown up into a bubble of thought, which we call the universe, massive projection, gets itself caught up in projection perception, forgets the awareness that it denied when it believed in separation, and gets lost in time and space, in its new self-created reality, which becomes a prison for it. And then it seeks to try and find the happiness that it's yearning for in that prison, not realizing that you're not going to find it there, because in fact the prison is the denial of happiness. It's based on the belief that there is no happiness, and that you're condemned to suffer and to die. So only letting go of the belief in separation and the self-concept that it necessitates will do that for you. So you want to be happy? Well, let go of your self-concept. For a lot of people, that's a bit too radical. No, I want to be a happy separate self. And Yesh is saying you can't. There'll never be a happy separate self. It's not possible, because the separate self is not real. So how can what's unreal ever be truly happy? Not possible. So this is just accepting, what's true, and only that is true, and discarding the rest as the impossible miscreation that it is, and not believing in any of it. Which is a great relief if you really get this. It's like, oh my God, finally, so, I've got the truth. I can be totally free. I can just completely let go of all this nonsense. And, this is the path to total freedom, not a little bit of freedom. See, the ego will kind of, if you're on a spiritual path and it wants to go along with you, it'll give you a little bit, a little taste. Yeah, okay, we'll give you, because that keeps you going, keeps you going down that path. Oh, I got a little bit of a, taste of something. But then it misinterprets it and takes you down the rabbit hole away from pure formless awareness. You've probably seen that in spiritual circles. People actually get lost in another rabbit hole. It seems to be a more spiritual one, but actually it's just another form of separation. And that keeps them away from the ultimate peace and joy and bliss that is their true awareness. They're exploring down the rabbit hole, and they're looking for it there, and they're not going to find it because it's part of the the false belief. So it's just really simple. That's what I love about this teaching, and you just got to stick to it and say, okay, no exception. Let me just keep applying this to whatever is showing up, whatever reactions I have to these dramas. I need to apply this teaching to. Okay, I'm going to read the next one.
Most people's reactions to these dramas are motivated by their ego or belief in separation, and so lead to outcomes that confirm to them that this belief is true. This strengthens their ego and keeps their minds focused on the separation drama rather than on love, which keeps them unaware of the perfect love that is always there, bound to continue experiencing the changes that time enables and demands.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, we do respond. It's the old, we tend to react, not respond. When we have let go of all the triggers and the trauma and everything that causes us to react, then we can respond from a place of love rather than reacting in an egoic way. And it's all because we believe we're separate from the other person rather than all part of the same. And then because of what we've created in that reacting, we create more images to support that belief.
So it just keeps going. You react from the ego, it strengthens the ego, and you keep producing the projection perception mechanism. The ego keeps producing more images, more dramas. You keep reacting, and on it goes until you start changing your perception towards things, changing your reactions. So, okay, I don't have to react in the same way.
Yeah,
I can change it, and I can make a choice consciously, not to do that. And you feel the pull of the ego. It wants you to do the normal thing, your normal default pattern. There's a strong pull for that. But this teaching is helping you to counter that. So no, use a lesson, use one of the techniques to let that go. Realizing that it's not serving you. You can let it go, and in that moment you can find the freedom from it. And you found then a little bit of the freedom or the ultimate freedom that this is pointing to.
Yeah.
You just keep doing that. Then you weaken the ego instead of strengthen it.
Yes.
Those are your choices. You're either going to be strengthening it or weakening it. He does say in the beginning of the workbook, there are no neutral thoughts. There are no neutral thoughts. It's one or the other. You're gonna be either thinking an ego thought that's strengthening the ego, or you're going to be thinking with the Holy Spirit that's undoing the ego. There's no neutrality. It's one or the other. So you need to choose, which one you are, and if you do that consistently, then you will see strong effects. Consistently choose the ego, you will get strong ego effects. It does manifest in your life, but not very pleasantly. Usually it's awful, but you see it, and you choose consistently for the spirit, and then you start living in the domain of miracles, and it's really obvious. You start going, yeah, this does work.
Yeah.
Which then strengthens your belief in the Holy Spirit and in the truth.
Yeah, that is key, isn't it? The belief in the Holy Spirit and the truth, because thinking about the victim scenario, you can very easily get into a situation where you perceive you're being taken advantage of, being abused or whatever, and think, well, I'm not going to be a victim, I'm going to deal with this on the level of form. But of course that never works, because
you're reacting from the perception that you're being victimized, and now you go counter it. So now you fight. So then you get angry, but you're still making that real. You're making the victimization real. You're reacting to it.
Letting go of the belief that you can be a victim.
Yeah.
Recognizing that you are. It doesn't matter what you do on the level of form or what the other person does. Recognizing that you are part of pure formless awareness.
And then from that state, if you get an action, inspired action, then you take it, because now you're in the right state of mind. So it's not being inspired by the ego, seeking to escape the victimhood by countering it, which makes it real. It's actually coming from the state of inspiration, from your true awareness.
Yeah.
And maybe it's to do nothing. But maybe it says, okay, we'll do this. But now it's not an action, a reactive action. It's not perpetuating your karma. It's coming from an awareness that transcends time and space.
Yeah.
It's not perpetuating anything. And that's what guidance is. Listen to the guidance. It'll tell you what to do in a way that's not going to continually build your karma, grow your strengthen your karma. It's gonna undo it. Only the Holy Spirit can do that.
Yeah.
So listening to that, and getting yourself into the right state, a surrendered state, we let go, and then in that empty state, you listen. Okay, well, what should I do? Maybe nothing comes. Okay, then I do nothing. Maybe you go, okay, we'll just go do that, Jackie. And then you go, okay, how does that feel? Yeah, it feels pretty calm, peaceful. I'm not trying to resist anything. It's not a resisting action. It's not desperate. It just feels quite peaceful, but it sort of has a compelling power. It's not the desperation of the ego, but it's a deeper kind of compulsion.
Yeah.
And that's what we call inspiration. And that will trump motivation every time. So motivation comes from the root word to emotere, which means to move. So you're moving away from you. It's always about movement. I'm motivated to do something. It's all about action and movement. Whereas inspiration is coming from the spirit that is timeless, that doesn't move. I mean, in the spirit, that's a spirit of oneness, of pure beingness that doesn't move. But from that spirit, I can now get an inspiration, a specific guidance to do something, which may entail action. But it's actually coming from the place of pure beingness. So that will then, if you keep following that voice, so what's it going to do? It's going to take you back to the pure beingness, because that's where it's coming from. You see how it works? So that's the Holy Spirit. And just able to interpret now for you, interpret the dream of time and space, and give you the guidance that will lead you out of the dream back to what inspired whatever it's telling you to do. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Amazing. Very well explained.
You will return to wherever it's coming from. So if you keep giving the ego a reality, well, then that's all you get. You get the ego, and the ego will keep you coming back to time and space, because that's its home.
Yeah.
And so then you're enslaved by it, and there's no escape within that thought system.
Yeah.
So you must change your mind. This is, the rubber meets the road in how do you react to these dramas.
Yeah.
You look at this example I put here of a hypothetical human life shown in the diagram, the events on a timeline of consciousness as an example. So you've got average human life, some various dramas. You're born, got your karma coming in, you have a major childhood trauma, so example, the death of a parent. So now you feel loss. Then you get rejected by someone, your first special love. So now you've got this pattern of abandonment, which was already there, but it's just now playing out in time. Then you seek a marriage to a surrogate parent to substitute for your loss. We will often be the wrong person. So then you go through another trauma, which is a messy divorce. You're familiar with that. A major adult trauma could lose a job. Another it could be some kind of physical problem, heart attack, stress of starting a new business. You might have a success along the way, some major success, for example, the sale of a business, and then you have the existential crisis of retirement. What's it all about now? Post all of this, and then finally some illness which leads you to death, and that's what your life. And some of these experiences will happen for people in this program. Major success selling a business. Sue and John did that. Existential crisis of retirement. They've been through that. You've been through a messy divorce. There's probably people who've lost jobs. I think Lynn lost her job, didn't she, recently, 2 years ago or whatever. And and so it goes. These are common experiences, which we have, and then the ego is trying to tell us that these are all real, and these red arrows symbolize the ego psychological and emotional attachment, which then wants you to focus on the event, make it real, judge it, and feel a whole lot of emotion around it to make it all reality. That strengthens the separate self concept, because now you identify yourself with the character on the timeline. Oh, no, I am really this, and this is really happening to me, and it's all pretty awful. It's pretty scary, and it's difficult and traumatic, and I'm cut off from my source. There's no pure formless awareness of perfect love anymore. My mind is rooted on the illusion and on the self-concept that is trying to figure out a way to make this illusion better, trying to find happiness in the dream through all of this stuff that it keeps popping up. And Yeshua's saying, well, that's not going to work. Being stuck on the timeline in the red linear sequence from birth to death and attaching to the various events on the timeline is just going to strengthen your ego. And if you live a life like that, you die, and you've really learned nothing. You just learned the ego's story again, which will reinforce the strength of your separate self. So then you bypass pure formless awareness of perfect love, because you've denied that your whole life. So why would you suddenly expect it to be revealed when you die? You bypass it and you come back, because your ego's psychological and emotional attachments, which is your karma, need to be played out. They need to be enacted somewhere. So you have to come into this world and into another life to play it out. And then, you'll have another life, not exactly the same, but similar dramas play out. And you'll just keep doing that until you start changing your perception of the dramas, saying maybe these are not true. And I can let them go. So in each drama, you can then go reinterpret it, and you can take your mind back to pure formless awareness. That's what forgiveness does. Letting go. So you go above the battleground, Yesha calls it, into this state of higher awareness. And from that state of awareness, you now perceive it differently. So that's why it's a double error. You go up, you go out of it, you let it go, and then you come back and you look at it again, and you change your perception of it. Different perception, different perspective, which then creates different thoughts, different emotions, different actions. And your karma changes, because that's what karma is made up of. All of those thoughts, emotions, and actions creates your karma. And so that then changes your life going forward. So if you start doing this and letting go of each attachment, then this helps you to undo the need for these experiences. As he says, this is miracles control time, and ultimately they collapse time. They lessen the need for time. You don't need to have time anymore to play out these dramas.
Yeah.
Because you're just resting in pure formless awareness. Your mind's chosen that. You don't need time to experience pure formless awareness. It's an eternal state of mind. So time becomes unnecessary. And if you've really understood that, by the time you lay your body aside, then you're free. Time's not necessary. So I don't need to come back into a pointless, futile domain and live out another human life, when I realize it's really just not necessary. And then you're free. That's the escaping the cycle of birth and death, and just resting in a timeless state. This is no time, forever. The ego can't get its head around it. You won't conceptualize that. You can't conceptualize that.
Yeah.
It's an experience, universal experience that this course is pointing to. This timeless state, which will come. He's saying revelation will come if you've corrected your mind to the right extent. So the miracles then lead to revelation ultimately. He's saying, well, why are you in time and you still got the split mind? And this is your way out. You must let these things go.
You could put revelation in that blue over as well.
Yeah, you could. I'll see if I can fit it in. There's already a lot of it, but knowledge, love, source.
All those words are interchangeable, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they all point to the same thing. They're just pointers to something that's really beyond language. How can you frame that? It's eternal. It's infinite. You can't really frame it in language, because language is limited. So they just point to it.
Yeah. Jackie's just got to go and let somebody in. We'll see if we can entice her onto the call. She's a Course in Miracles person.
Great. Yeah.
What I found really interesting while you were talking is that I had a sudden craving for dark chocolate with nuts in it. And it was like so strong, my mouth was watering, and I haven't thought about food like that in years. So something you've just said has triggered it. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it is.
Interesting. It's interesting. It's so subconscious. I don't know what it was, but it was something about what you just said.
Well, that's a defense. So if you're getting the truth, then the ego's got to go, oh, craving for something, sensation in time and space. What does that do? It makes it real. So this is the way then you make time and space real.
Okay.
And your cravings are part of your karma, you see. You still want something in time and space. Something outside of pure formless awareness. Well, you have to come back here to get it. So all of these, addictions, cravings that we have in this world will pull you back. Just you have that belief still in your mind that, oh no, I really want dark chocolate. You'll have to come back. You don't get it in heaven. You have to come back here. So you see how desire, it's not just what you fear. It's not just a negative. It's what you desire that pulls you back here. Because you're desiring something other than pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Wow. Yeah.
And that becomes a substitute for this reality. Dark chocolate or whatever, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever, floats your boat seemingly, is a substitute for this. It's all covering it over. And, it's a substitute can never satisfy. Because once you've had the dark chocolate, oh, that was really nice. And then the next piece isn't quite as nice. And then by the fifth piece, you're kind of pigging out a bit and you're like, it's all a bit much. Doesn't satisfy you for long. Whereas eternity, pure formless awareness, is totally, deeply satisfying. You know that because you've experienced it. You went into that state and it's just like, I rest in God and it's perfect.
Yeah,
No craving.
I've always said the chocolate craving is a craving for love, but you're just kind of taking it to the next step. Yeah, it's craving for pure formless awareness.
Yeah, which is divine love, perfect love. That's actually what you want, but everything else covers that over.
Yeah.
And then our minds seek that. We go, oh no, just give me, because it's instant gratification. I just want the chocolate. But actually, in that process, I'm denying the truth of my being. I'm saying I'm seeking satisfaction elsewhere than in the truth of who I am. And so these are the ways that we subtly, or not so subtly, deny our true awareness, and we keep ourselves in the ego.
Wow. Yeah.
No, it's powerful stuff.
Wow. Quite often I come on here and I have like one or two revelations, one or two like wow moments, but I've had loads today.
Yeah, it's a good topic, time, and really looking at how it's all bound up with karma and the human life, and you understand it all clearly. It's so simple. Okay, well this is what's going on. I understand why I've lived the life I have, what other people do. I understand why life doesn't really work, why the human experience doesn't really work. It's not meant to work. It's meant to play out your negative karma and punish you. That's what it's meant to do. So of course it's not designed to work. And that's why we have all these dramas and traumas and so on, with some good stuff thrown in. Because if it was all bad, you'd figure it out, wouldn't you? Oh, it's all hell, so very clear. But if there's a little bit of good stuff, then the ego keeps you in the game, doesn't it? Oh no, but there's some good stuff here. So keep coming back, Sally, because you can get dark chocolate here. You can get whatever, so you can create your reality. You can be a conscious manifester. You can be a whatever. What do they call manifesting?
Generator.
Manifesting generator. You can be a manifesting generator. But to be a manifesting generator, you have to be human, and you have to come into time and space, and you have to go on the timeline, and there will be the downside to that, inevitably. So you have to accept then duality. Which is, if you've got pure formless awareness as an option, that's a very silly choice, because this is perfect, complete, whole. Nothing ever goes wrong in pure formless awareness. Why wouldn't you choose that? I mean, this life, stuff's always going wrong, seemingly. That's life. And we're seeking to make it all go right in form, and it's just saying you never will. It's a construct, by design, that's designed to go wrong.
Just checking to see if they took the dog with them. I don't think they did, unfortunately.
For a walk.
Yeah, darn it.
Right,
no, they left
so we've got another 50 odd minutes, so let's jump into the any thoughts on this diagram or anything else?
No, it's perfect.
Let's jump into there's the lesson. Okay, so you want to read the original and then the translated version of the key idea, and then the first paragraph.
I seek a future different from the past. I choose a future different from the past. Yeah, I love this.
Choosing is better because it's more empowering. It's like I choose. No, I'm not seeking. I'm choosing it right now, consciously. Which he actually uses the word choose down here in where is it? Oh, is it in the second one? Choose.
Yeah, choose in the second one. Father, we mistaken in the past, and choose to use.
Yeah, and choose to use the present to be free. So there's a choice, but he's used seek in the key idea, which I think is quite a disempowering word. I'm seeking but not finding. Whereas I choose is like, no, I'm choosing it now. So by my choice, I have it.
I'm choosing to let go of the past so I can be in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really powerful lesson. I thought it was great. I shared it with loads of people.
Good. Yeah, excellent. Do you share the image on Facebook?
Not yours, no, but I shared the idea of it all.
Oh.
I was getting a bit excited because Jackie was having a printer problem. Her printer that she's moved here with wouldn't let go of the old programming from the old house. So it just seemed all very tied in. Gotta let go of the past before you can move on.
Yeah, I gotta let go of the old program.
Yeah. Perfect, hey?
Yeah. The symbols. You do start to see, the symbols in the dream. It's all perfect for you because it's your karma playing, your beliefs playing out. Now you get to see your beliefs, confront them, and if they're not true, let them go. What could be simpler? Except that those beliefs you believe are you. That's the problem. You believe that set of beliefs, your self-concept, is you. So now you have to deny yourself. Which is why Jesus did say, deny yourself and come to me. Because you've got to deny the false self completely, and only then will you be free. Okay, so you want to read the original?
From new perception of the world, there comes a future very different from the past. The future now is recognized, but as an extension of the present. Okay, past mistakes can cast no shadows on it, so that fear has lost its idols and its images, and being formless, it has no effects. Death will not claim the future now. Death will not claim the future now. For life is now its goal, and all the needed means are happily provided.
Okay, you want to discuss that? In the future now, you're like,
Yeah. So we always presume that there's going to be death in the future, but if we're living in the now, there isn't any death. We're not on the timeline. We're in the present.
So although your body is going to be laid aside eventually, you realize that's not really death. No one really dies. It's like the body is just not useful anymore, so it's laid aside. Death is the idea that you end, right? It's the ending of your life. Your imagined life as a separate person, which is very fearful, of course, for the self-concept. I have this life, but it's going to end. And then what? And so most people don't deal with death very well at all. I'm speaking to Sue and John the other day. They say most of their friends don't think about it. They're in their 70s, 80s, and there's no, what happens when you die? They say, this is a bit depressing. We don't talk about that. Well, hang on, at what point do you do it? You wait till the day you dying to sort of try and resolve it and look at it, or so yeah. Although the body, and people say, well, your body's going to die. Yes, but the idea, remember, death is an idea. The idea in your mind is gone. That's what he's talking about. You realize you cannot die. Your true life is the life of the mind. You realize you're eternal. You cannot die. You just change form. You're not human anymore. You're not in a human form. Your mind's not attached to a body.
So it's a bit like that experience I had in the movie theatre yesterday, where the me was like a coat I took off and it just went and dissolved into the screen. So it's like that, really, isn't it? You just, as long as you're above the battleground, you're not involved in the drama, actual, the seeming Sally. It doesn't matter.
And there is no death. You realize, well, if the Sally character never really existed, she's just an image projected onto the screen, a hallucination. Then when the image is gone, that's not really death, because there wasn't really life. There wasn't really life to start with. It was a delusion.
Just letting go of a story.
Letting go of a story that wasn't real. So it's an idea that you transcend, saying, you know, death will not claim the future now, because you just don't believe it anymore. You're above the battleground. You're in pure formless awareness, even while you seemingly living in a body, but it doesn't matter. The body really is not important anymore to you. All the needed means are happily provided, which is quite reassuring. Life is now its goal. And so things are rearranged. You change your perception in this way, and miracles start happening. Synchronicities, flows, to show you that life is, you know, only this eternal life is true. And that we experience that as in the world as flow. When you're in flow, and there's life just happening, and it's flowing, and you know, there's happiness and there's peace along the way, and there's connections with people. Well, that's now an expression of this life principle, which is oneness, which is love. And you realize death isn't true and real, and so that the idea of death cannot overshadow life. You can't believe in it anymore. Who can grieve or suffer? Want to carry on?
Who can grieve or suffer when the present has been freed, extending its security and peace into a quiet future filled with joy? It's not really future then, is it? There's only now. So
yeah, well, this is what he's saying. You know, there comes a future very different from the past. The future now is recognized as but extension of the present.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So there's no future. It's just the present. It's always the present moment. And when the future present comes, it'll be just the present. You know, it's a concept in the mind. Yes, you know, next year there'll be more now moments. It'll just be the now, and we'll call it 2023, but it's the same thing, really. Nothing's really changed. It's always the now. We just call it another year, and we have the sense of time progressing, because that's the construct. Things seem to change, and so we measure that change with time, and we have concepts of years and hours, and to measure these intervals of change. You see how change is so bound up with time. Without change, there would be no time. So, you know, in eternal awareness, pure formless awareness, there's no change, so there's no time. Everything's just the same, always. Now the ego is going to say, well, that's horribly boring. Oh my God, no. No, you don't want it just the same. I want some action. I want some, you know, drama. I want some stuff to be which was, of course, the original desire that sponsored it.
Yeah.
I'm bored of pure formless awareness. I don't want that anymore. I want something else. Which then necessitates change. You've got to change pure formless awareness and create another reality that gives you what you think you want. So now we're in it. We go, well, it's not that great, actually, because, you know, all the stuff that it can seemingly giving me is illusory. It doesn't satisfy me. And in the end, everything dies. Nothing will last you. So all very impermanent. So what's the point? And you know, Yeshua's teaching us there is no point. There never was a point. That's the point. It's a delusion. You had well, actually read the alternative, and then if you want to unpack anything else, because you paused at one of these others. I think future is now recognized. Just an extension of the present. If you want to discuss that, we can.
From new perception of the world, there comes a future very different from the past. Oh, it makes me want to sneeze. The future is now recognized as just an extension of the present. Oh, I let that one go. The future is now recognized as just an extension of the present. Past mistakes can cast no shadows on it. Yeah, that's the bit that caught me this morning. Oh, still catching me. Yeah, that shadow of your past mistakes, you know, your old concept, the things that you think you didn't do very well. I could see it so clearly, not particularly for me, but I could see it in other people where they carry the old mistakes into the now. And all those beliefs are still being played out now.
And that's the baggage, you know, we call it baggage, emotional baggage, which then requires that there's fear in the future. Well, if the past has been this way, then it's likely to be more of the same or worse in the future. So it's the past future channel. You know, you reference to the past, and then you must fear the future. But if it's an unpleasant past, you must go, well, maybe the future is going to be as unpleasant or worse. Or you desire it to be better. But then you desire it to be better, to move away from this past that's real in your mind. And you get lost in the desire and the craving again.
Yeah, it's a cycle, yeah.
It's a crazy, vicious circle of you know, just getting lost in a thought system that doesn't make any sense. And he's saying, just, you know, let it all go. The fear has lost the false beliefs that underpin it. So those are the images, idols. Idols is just a false belief. And the images are what you imagine, what it imagines to be real. Oh, you know, this might happen. I might get sick. I might die. I might lose my job. I might, you know, whatever. Those are the images, imaginings that seem to be real. That's what he means by idols and images, false beliefs, and it's images. What we imagine from those false beliefs will happen. And then fear has lost its idols and its images. So you take away the beliefs and the projections that that are the result of the fear, and they go bound up with that fear, and then that undoes the fear, because it's made up of these beliefs and these projections. Therefore, being formless, it has no effects. And letting everything go, there's no form. You're not giving these things a reality anymore. Your beliefs, your false beliefs don't have a reality in your mind. Neither do your imaginings. What you're imagining will happen in the future.
And death will not dominate the future now. So I've not really thought about it like that, but I suppose all fear is a death wish. And
yeah, all fear comes down to the fear of death. Oh, no, I'll ultimately die. So I'm fearing whatever it is, you know, that I'll get sick, or I'll get injured, or I'll, you know, lose my special relationship, or I'll lose my job, or I won't have enough money. You know, all these fears that plague people. But in the end, that is just a small version of the fear of death, because in the end, death is saying it's all going to end. So that's a mini death. You know, you lose your job, it's a mini death. You lose a relationship, again, mini death, which is a precursor to the whole death, which is, okay, I lose the whole thing. You know, my entire life is now lost, and everything goes. And of course, if you're attached to it, then that's very fearful. You think you cease to exist. So instead of that, you're saying life, eternal life, is now its goal. So you can make that a capital L. What do you think?
Yeah.
Because it's a pointer. Life is another pointer to the truth, isn't it? Truth, life, love. It's all pointing to this other dimensions, other reality. I would use the word dimension because it's not the best word. It's another reality.
Of living a fearless life.
Yeah. And that's not because you're so courageous. You know, the idea of courage is you've got fear and then you overcome it. This is saying there is no fear, right? There's nothing to fear. It's another level on the scale. You know, those higher reaches of the scale of consciousness. It's not about fear anymore. I got a let's just see. Just get to the email and just click on it.
Yeah, as you go up the consciousness scale and you get further away from fear, because you tend to live in a band of energy, don't you? So if you kind of are lurking around willingness, you don't come right down to shame, do you? It's like you tend to stay in a band and you go up and down in that area, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you could temporarily come down here, but you wouldn't stay if your general level is higher, then you would bounce back quite quickly. So someone who's optimistic, they might have a challenge, they might go into some of these lower emotions for a while, but then they'll come back to their state, their default state. So if you look at, what the point was at joy, love, joy, peace, enlightenment, at these levels, there's no idea of fear anymore. You've transcended fear. Courage is still the idea there's fear, but it's feasible. You could overcome it. So there's still a duality there. But at the higher levels, there's no duality anymore. There's simply nothing to overcome. You've just merged yourself into this other awareness, this higher awareness. It's totally beyond fear. It's transcendent of fear. So, but the journey is often to face these things and then start to overcome them in your mind, and then that will take you to the point where you realize they were not real. So you can then rest just in these higher states and not go down the ladder again to fear or desire.
Yeah. And it just doesn't feel the same, does it, when you're not there all the time? Because when you're in it, you're lost in it. But when you're more aligned with a higher vibration, you're just visiting it temporarily. So it just feels different, doesn't it? It's like it doesn't feel so all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, if you know that there's another awareness and it's your normal state, then even if you're experiencing these things, there's a part of your mind that knows that it's in reality, it's not ultimate truth, just a temporary experience. So you can't fully believe in it. Whereas if people are rooted in these, there's people who are depressed, apathy or something. They've so identified with it that there's no other awareness. That's now becomes their default awareness. If you keep thinking those kinds of thoughts, and that's what happens. It's just like it becomes so entrenched that then it's very hard to access another awareness, because your mind's just become accustomed to thinking and feeling in this way, and there seems to be no alternative. Which is why it's often hard. Someone's really deeply depressed, it's hard to shift them out of it because it's such a deep-seated pattern. And they've actually denied there's another reality. They think that their entire world is this little domain which they operate, maybe between guilt and grief, apathy at the core. You notice that all these from level 20 to level 100 are past oriented. These are all about the past. They make the past very real. As soon as you go to 100 or above, fear, desire, anger, those are more future oriented. So shifting from apathy to fear is a significant level up, because at least with fear, you acknowledging that something can change. Fear is based on the concept of the future, which allows for change. So it's not absolutely positive, it's a movement in the right direction. Because at, say, shame, there's no change. Just I feel shame for who I am, and I feel like I don't deserve to live. I'm a miserable sinner, and I don't deserve even to live, and so I'm going to punish myself. Oh, so you reference the scale can be useful, just to have a look at it and reference, see where some of these ideas are that come up in lessons.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you finished reading number 2, the alternative? Or?
I don't think I did the last sentence. Who can grieve or suffer when the present has been freed, extending its security and peace into a quiet future filled with joy?
You can grieve or suffer. Present has been freed, quiet future filled with joy, which is just the present moment. The future is you're rooted in the present moment. In the present moment, if you're really just rooted there, there's only love and peace and joy, as we can see at these higher levels. So if you put a time kind of construct to this, the between 20 and 75 up to fear would be past orientation. From 100 up to probably 250, maybe 300. There's still a large future orientation at 310. Willingness, because it's all about inspiring. I'm hopeful. The life view is I'm hopeful. Well, that implies future, doesn't it? I'm hopeful things will get better in the future. So from 100 to 310 is future orientation, and then from 350 upwards is being in the now, transcending time and future, time and past and future, and just being rooted in the now moment. Realizing, what he's asking us to do is to translate, almost take the step through forgiveness. And that's interesting. So where does the future now become the now with forgiveness, doesn't it? You look at that's the barrier. Future up to their optimism for the future. Forgiveness takes you into the now. So interesting that's at 350. And that's then the transition from past future orientation into just being rooted in the now.
Yeah.
What he's doing here with the lesson. So this lesson, if you really accepted it, would take you from the future orientation, even if you're quite optimistic about the future, it would take you beyond that into the now, and just understanding that everything is actually okay right now. So I'm no longer hoping, because hope implies everything's actually not quite satisfactory now, doesn't it? I'm still hopeful that it will improve, it'll get better. So it's better than despair, but you're still not rooted in the awareness that everything's okay now, which is what you have to do to find the true reality and who you really are. Everything is okay now, just as it is. No change is required.
Yeah.
Okay, so any thoughts on paragraph 1? Want to summarize it briefly? What's he saying there in summary?
When you let go of the past, you're in the now. And the past cannot affect you. It can't hold you back. It doesn't distort the present. And then you're not tormented by the future and death. So the way forward is in the now. You're free in the now, where you can feel joy. No brainer, isn't it? Who wants to be anywhere else?
Yeah, but the reason why Yeshua has to teach us like this is because we've so believed in the ego that we've forgotten. We've forgotten that there's, another way. We've forgotten about the now. We've forgotten about love and peace and joy. And so, he has to teach us and show us very clearly what the limitations of the ego's thought system are. Otherwise, we just continue believing in it. We think that's reality. That's just how it is. That's how life is.
Mm.
You're saying, no, it's that way by choice, your choice. So make another choice. Because it was choice that got you into the problem in the first place. A bad choice. So a good choice will get you out of it.
Mm.
Choice is the way in, and choice is the way out of the dream.
Yeah.
Which is why I've said choose. Choose a future different from a past. Choose a future where you're rooted in the present, where there is no future. Choose a future where you're just in pure formless awareness, in the now, and that's the now is just unfolding. Everything's just unfolding moment by moment by moment. That's being completely in the now, and that's what flow is. That's the flow state. Or being miracle minded, whatever terms you want to use, it all comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Move on to number 2.
Number 2, Father, we were mistaken in the past and choose to use the present to be free. Now do we leave the future in your hands, leaving behind our past mistakes, ensure that you will keep your present promises and guide the future in their holy light. Alternatively, my source, I was mistaken in the past and choose to use the present to be free. Now I place the future in your care, leaving behind my past mistakes, and I am sure that you will keep your present promises and guide the future in their whole awareness. Lovely, lovely.
I like the translation. I thought it was just bringing into, that it's a care. It's there's a presence that's deeply caring and you can trust.
Mm.
And that you can stay rooted in that. Choose to use the present to be free. So you just let go of trying to work it out yourself. Fear is a sign that you're trying to control it yourself. Work out the future yourself and keep yourself safe and get what you want to get. Keep yourself safe.
Mm.
Letting go of all of that is actually what's going to make you safe.
Yeah. I've got to get moving now because I've got more things to do than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do a meditation, I could listen to it on the move.
Okay, we'll do a 15-minute med.
Yeah, I'll just log in on my phone. Hang on a sec.
Okay.
Find the login. That last time I tried and logged on in here. It'd be easy, wouldn't you? Just log on.
What are you trying to do it from
I'll
Telegram?
go. I was trying to do it from Telegram, didn't work. I'll do it from the email. All right. I'll go out, walk the dog, and I'll listen.
Okay. All right. So if you're listening to the recording, just make yourself comfortable. Sally, you doing your thing. I'm just going to mute you. Unmute yourself. So you can do this as a moving meditation if you want. Otherwise, sitting comfortably, feet shoulder width apart, back straight. Cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Breathing into the lower stomach, blowing it up like a balloon. Clenching your sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. Pulling the energy up the spine. Into your heart center, putting one hand on your heart. Connecting with your heart energy. And attention into the present moment by focusing all of it on subtle sensations of the breath, body. Breathing in again. Feeling the energy rising up, spine into the crown of your head. That's a maximal inhale breath. And just pause at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind. Notice any thoughts and emotions going on there, particularly anything about the future related. So all fear is future oriented. Anxiety, desiring something in the future, hoping, feeling excited about something to come. And just observe all these thoughts and emotions. Notice how they show up in your body. So there's usually a strong emotion is translated into physical sensations. So notice those physical sensations. Just breathe into them. Create some space, some light. Just awareness around that thought and emotion and any perception of the body. And I'll just bring in today's key idea. So I choose a future different from the past. There's anxiety, worry. Recognize that it's based on the past being a certain way. And projecting that into the future, but this isn't true. So you're just willing to let go of what's not true. Exhale, blow it all away with the breeze of your breath. Like a dark cloud leaving you, going, gone. To the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And you just rest here in this deep peace and stillness. Bottom of the exhale, the gap between breaths, there's a gap in the mind. So just rest in the gap for a few minutes, breathing in and out through your nose. Feeling the breath flowing in, the breath flowing out. Stomach rising and falling. And entering fully into the present moment. Let these words just come into your awareness and permeate into it, seep into it, helping you to experience your true self. Like pebbles dropping into a pond on a very still, calm, windless day. Because the pond or the mind is so still, the pebbles will have an impact. A ripple effect is noticeable. So listen to these words from Yeshua. So read you the alternative version of the lesson translated into alternative language. Keep watching your breath. Let the ideas just permeate in to the stillness, seeping into the depths of your subconscious mind to awaken you, to change your mind fundamentally. It's foundation. So he says, a new perception of the world becomes a future very different from the past. Future is now recognized as just an extension of the present. So there's no future, in other words, there's only the present moment. In the future, there will be more present moments, but there is only the present moment. Past mistakes can cast no shadows on it, so that fear has lost the false beliefs that underpin it, and what it imagines to be real, and therefore being formless, it has no effects. So just breathe in all of that, breathe in the light of true awareness. You can visualize a light flowing into any areas of darkness in your body. Breathe it into any tension. Just breathe it in generally. And feel the power of this present moment beyond all illusions. Yeshua says death will not claim it, or death will not dominate the future now. So in the now moment, right here, right now, there's no death. You are alive. Life is now its goal. Just being aware of this eternal life. True awareness. And all the needed means for a fearless life are happily provided. Right now, who can grieve or suffer when the present has been freed? Extending its security and peace into a quiet future filled with joy. So have a sense of this, that just by staying peaceful, happy right now, learning to do that, this is guaranteeing a future like this. These things are always there, so you know how to stay in them. And your future is guaranteed to be peaceful and quiet and secure. Say the final prayer before we have a couple of minutes of deep silence. In my source, I was mistaken in the past and choose to use the present to be free. Now I place the future in your hands or your care, leaving behind my mistakes. And I'm sure that you will keep your present promises, guide the future in their holy light, in their whole awareness. My future will be guided by true awareness to do whatever I need to do. So just this invitation to the present moment, just sink into this whole awareness. Allow it to arise in your mind, in your heart, the one end of your heart that helps you just be completely in the present. There's no thought about anything else, no thoughts about the future, expectations, fears. Just drop all of those and go into a state of pure formless awareness. State of mind above, beyond delusions. And just rest here in this deep peace and stillness for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. So just coming back gently into awareness of the body and the breath, senses, and the world. And on the count of 3, going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale, scan your mind again, noticing any thoughts, emotions, anything that feels fearful or anxious, and just let it go with the help of your breath. So exhale, and just release it. And breathe of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Notice how the air flows out, chest and the stomach suck back in. Energy raised up into the crown, subsides back down to the lower stomach and the groin. Just the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground, Notice what you're feeling and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. Breathe in. Without interpretation, without judgment, these things are just very peaceful. So you come back into the world, but in this very peaceful way, with not the judgmental mind, just rooted in true awareness, pure formless awareness. And so you're going to stay there for the rest of the afternoon and evening. Use today's lesson to help you do that. Frequently, ideally every hour, just remind yourself about the lesson that I choose a future different from the past right now. So I'm rooted in the present moment. So the idea is designed to bring you into the present moment, even though it's talking about future and past. And the way you're going to change the future is to change now. So yeah, practice well. You can listen to this recording, the short 5-minute recording I sent you to do that, or follow the instructions I sent in your Telegram or email message. Allow you to do it in under a minute. So that should keep you rooted in the present moment, in a very happy, peaceful, flowing state. So it is said, so it is done. Now on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just look around for a minute. Noticing the various objects in the room around you, or you're out on a walk. Nature, trees, plants, flowers. I won't see many flowers now, but nature, whatever. Just notice it in this very aware state without judging it, interpreting it, labeling it. It is what it is, and you notice this very crystal clear awareness. It's behind everything, and let your eyes just rest randomly on a few things in this way. And so you start to train your mind to notice that really there's just one awareness underlying all of your sense perceptions. Only one awareness, a singular awareness, and that's your awareness, and it's always there, ever-present awareness. And this is how you choose a future different from the past, by rooting yourself into this true awareness, which is only accessible in the present moment. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. I wish you a very peaceful, present, wholly aware afternoon and evening. Good practicing. So thank you to Sally and Jackie for joining the session, and no session tonight, so the next one will be Sunday. I'd like to do early afternoon, so maybe starting half an hour early or something, but I'll message you on Sunday about that. So thanks for joining, Sally and Jackie, anyone else who's listening on the recording or getting the live stream. Hope you enjoyed it, and practice well. And I'll see you again in a couple of days. Namaste, which means the wholly aware present self in me acknowledges and honors that same presence in you.